Good morning!
I'm Grace E. Magsino, your science teacher. In this lesson, you will be able to describe estuaries and intertidal zone and understand the interactions among the living things and non-living things that take place in estuaries and intertidal zone.
Look at these pictures. How can you describe them? Yes, these are bodies of water. Definitely the ocean and the river. Yeah, there are parts that are covered with trees. That's why it is blue. Look closer to this. What we can see here is the river. Where do you think the river water goes? Yes, it flows to the ocean. And this area is called estuary.
An estuary is a partially enclosed coastal body of brackish water with one or more rivers or stream flowing to it, and with the free connections to the open sea. It is a place where salt water from the ocean mixes with the fresh water from the rivers and streams, and made up of many different types of habitats. It is also called as nurseries of the seas because of its very unique characteristics that some organisms choose to reproduce in this area. The Philippines, being an archipelago, is surrounded by seas and oceans. Because of this, the Philippines is rich in coastal areas, which are affected by the rising and receding tides. These areas are called intertidal zones, which are home to many kinds of marine animals and birds.
As you observe, estuaries are home to unique plant and animal communities that have adapted to brackish water. Brackish means salt water combined with fresh water. It becomes brackish water or salty fresh water mix. Let's do an experiment to show how unique the water in estuary. And now, let's try to answer this. What happened when salt water was added to fresh water in the experiment? Yes, at first, the salt water submerged, and eventually, it mixed with fresh water. Based on this, what represents the water in the river? And what represents the ocean water? Yes, you're right. The fresh water in the jar represents the water in the river, and the salty colored water represents the ocean. What can you say with the salinity level or the saltiness of water when we mix fresh water and ocean water. How can you compare it with the ocean water? The mixture of fresh water and ocean water is a little bit salty. It has greater salinity compared to fresh water and less salinity compared to ocean water. Let's answer that question using this picture. The mixture of fresh water and ocean water is a little bit salty. It has greater salinity compared to fresh water from the river and less salinity compared to the ocean water. And this area is called estuary. Let's answer it again. The mixture of fresh water and ocean water is a little bit salty. It has greater salinity compared to the fresh water from the river and less salinity compared to the ocean water. And this area is what we call estuary.
This unique salty freshwater mix is where life begins, for it is the nursing ground for about 75% of the fish that we catch. Life on Earth is a product of different interactions in different regions or geographic areas, where both biotic factors like plants, animals, and other living organisms, and abiotic factors like water, temperature, humidity, soil, rocks, and other organisms that work together. Let us watch a video about estuary and take note about the living or the biotic factor and non-living or abiotic factors that you can see in the video.
What a beautiful place where the river meets the sea. Now it's time for you to answer the learning task 1. You will be given 3 minutes to answer this. Based on the video presented, complete the table below by naming things found in estuary. And now for the living things, we have plants, fishes, crabs, snake, and snail. For the non-living things, we have water, rocks, soil, temperature, and humidity. And there are a lot of things that you can find in the estuaries. Now, what is estuary? How can you describe it? Yes, in estuary, there are living and non-living things. Yup, it is a place where salt water from the ocean mixes with fresh water from the rivers and streams, and made up of many different types of habitats. Look at this part of the video. How the living things and non-living things interact. Do they need each other to survive?
Yes, of course. This area in estuary is called ecosystem. Living things cannot sustain life without non-living things. They interact with their physical environment and other organisms. They require energy to perform life activities. In this case, they need to eat food.
Analyze the figure. Observe the pattern how organisms interact and get energy through eating. Fill in the blanks below based on this figure.
Let's answer learning task 2. Plankton may be eaten by mollusks and mussels.
Heron eats. Good. It's salmon and small fish. Mussels eats plankton. Shrimp may be eaten by. Good. It's salmon. Freshwater mollusk may be eaten by salmon. The motion of high tide and low tide creates 4 zones within the intertidal zone, where different animals and plants live. Spray zone. The spray zone is perhaps more a part of the land than the ocean. It is submerged only during rare, very high tides or severe storms, but is repeatedly wet by splashing waves and wind-blown spray.
The other remaining zones are high intertidal zone, mid intertidal zone, and low intertidal zone. Zones are divided based on its area being wet or submerged in water. Each zone has different inhabitants depending on their adaptation. You may observe that most organisms with shell is located at the middle zone up to the splash area. These organisms has the ability to protect themselves from being dry, even at splash area, because of their shell. These are the organisms in intertidal zone. Let's answer learning task 3. Observe the different organisms and imagine how they interact and get energy through eating. Fill in the blanks below based on this figure. Let's answer learning task 3. Red sea urchin may be eaten by. Good, it's gulls. Octopus eats. You're right, it's tadpoles, sculpin. Crab eats plant plankton, dead plant, and animals. Starfish may be eaten by gulls. Periwinkles may be eaten by. You're right, it's sea urchin. In both estuary and intertidal zone, organisms interact and have different roles to perform. Producers,
They are the organisms that produce food from sunlight and inorganic substances. Consumers. They are organisms that eat other organisms. Scavengers. They are organisms that eat food scraps and leftovers. Decomposers. They are organisms that break down into simpler materials the remains of dead organisms. In this task, identify on how these organisms interact with other organisms. Let's start with animal. How it interacts with other organisms. Yes, animal is the consumer. How about diatoms? Yes, it is producer. How about the fish? Yes, it is consumer. And the seaweeds? Yep, it's producer. And lichens too. And the snail is consumer. How about the bacteria? Yes, it is decomposers. The mushroom? Yes, it's also decomposer. The fungus? Yes, of course, it's also decomposer. And the crab is? It's a scavenger.
Now, you will do a research. Choose an estuary animal and plant in which you are interested to know more about. Create a poster that shows the interesting facts you'll find out about it. You may include the adaptations and interactions to inhabit in estuary.
But for now, try to answer the following questions.